Chosen one, you did something recently. Maybe you didn't fully understand it when you did it. Maybe it felt small, even ordinary. Just a moment where something in you made a different choice. You chose to stop explaining yourself. Or you let something go without making noise about it. Or you sat in the silence instead of reaching for the distraction. Or you said yes to something that terrified you. And in that moment, in that quiet, unmarked moment that no one else saw, God smiled. Not a polite smile, not the kind of smile that passes. I am talking about the kind of joy that moves through eternity, the kind that makes heaven pause. And I need you to understand something before this message goes any further. What you did today was not small. What you did today shifted something at a frequency most people never reach. You were not brought to this message by accident. Something higher than chance led your eyes here at this exact hour. And what I am about to show you will change the way you understand every quiet, faithful act you have ever made. Before we go any further, I want to ask something of you. Not much, just this. Wherever you are right now, whatever is around you, let it settle. You don't have to move. You don't have to change anything. Just let the noise inside drop one layer lower. Because what I am about to walk you through is not the kind of message you receive on autopilot. It requires a different quality of attention, the kind that asks your spirit, not just your ears, to be present. Do take one slow breath. Good. Now, let's begin. And before I show you what God saw when you made that choice, I want to ask you to stay with me through every part of this message, because what I am going to share unfolds in layers. The first layer will make you feel seen. The second will explain why what you did carries more weight than you realized. There is a declaration that will be spoken specifically over your life before this is over. There is something I will reveal about the ancient language of divine joy that most people have never been taught. And there is a truth about what is being opened for you right now, in the relationships around you, in the purpose ahead of you, in the provision being rerouted toward you, that you will not understand until we get there. Stay with me. What you receive at the end of this will be worth every minute. Now, let me show you something. When a chosen one makes a decision that aligns with who they were created to be, not a dramatic decision, not a public one, but a real one, something begins to move, not just in the spiritual realm, in the visible world, in the hours and days that follow. And if you know what to look for, you can actually read the evidence that what you did has already started working. The first sign is a peace that arrived when it had no logical reason to. Not a peace you manufactured, not a peace you talked yourself into. Something simply settled in you quietly, almost imperceptibly after you made that choice. Like a room after the arguing stops, like a lake after the wind dies. If that happened, even slightly, even in a moment you almost dismissed as nothing that was not you becoming okay with your circumstances. That was the presence of God, confirming what your spirit already knew. That peace was not yours to create. It arrived. And the fact that it arrived is significant. The second sign is that certain people came to mind or reached out without any clear explanation. Someone you had not heard from in a while. Someone whose name surfaced in your thoughts at an unusual hour. This is not random. When a chosen one shifts their frequency, when they do something that realigns them with who they truly are, it sends a signal into the relational world around them. People respond to that signal without knowing why. Not because of psychology, because of something older and deeper than psychology. It is the way God begins reorganizing the connections around someone who just agreed to walk in their calling. The third sign is a moment of clarity about something that had been confusing you. Maybe not a full answer, maybe just enough light to see the next step. One thing that was foggy became slightly more obvious. One decision that felt impossible became slightly less heavy. Heaven has a way of confirming a faithful act by giving you something useful, not the whole map, just the next turn. If that happened to you in the last day or two, it was not coincidence. It was confirmation. The fourth sign, and I want you to pay close attention to this one, is that the anxious, circling thoughts that used to take up so much space have grown quieter. Not gone, but quieter, like they lost a little of their authority. Something you used to rehearse over and over, a worry, a fear, a conversation you kept rewriting in your head, has started to feel slightly less urgent. That is not you becoming numb to your problems. That is what happens when the frequency around you shifts. Anxiety thrives in misalignment. When alignment happens, anxiety loses its grip, 1 degree at a time. If any of those signs landed, if even one of them felt familiar, type the words, "I see it," in the comments right now, because you are not imagining it. And I want you to declare that you recognize what God is doing. The fifth sign is a changed relationship with time. The past feels further away than it used to, not erased, not ignored, just further. And the future, the thing you have been reaching toward, feels slightly closer than before. This is one of the most significant signs of a sacred shift. When time itself starts to feel different, something has moved at a level deeper than your emotions or your circumstances. You are not the same person you were before that choice. And time knows it, even when you don't fully believe it yet. The sixth sign is the one most people almost miss because it is so quiet, they dismiss it. It is a lightness, a slight, unexplained sense that something you were carrying has been received, not solved. Not fixed, received. Like you handed something over, even without fully knowing you were handing it, and the weight shifted from your hands into something larger. That lightness is real. Chosen one. Do not explain it away. That is what it feels like when God takes what you offered him today. Now, I want to show you something that will help you understand why this pattern, this exact sequence, is not new. It has appeared before, in the life of a man who was chosen long before he was announced. A man who spent years in a pit, then in a prison, then in obscurity, not because God had abandoned him, but because God was doing something in him that could not be rushed. Joseph. You know the name. But what most people focus on is the ending, the palace, the promotion, the vindication. What I want to focus on is the middle, the years when nothing looked like it was working. The years when the promise he had been given seemed like something written in a language he could no longer read. Those years were not wasted. They were not punishment. Every single one of them was formation. And here is what deserves our attention. At some point, in the darkness of that prison, Joseph stopped arguing. He stopped rehearsing his case. He stopped trying to force his way out of the place he didn't want to be in. He began working faithfully, quietly, with everything he had in exactly the situation he would not have chosen for himself. That was his moment. That was his seed entering the ground. And what you planted, in your own moment of choosing God, saw the seed enter the ground the same way he saw Joseph's. Seeds don't grow in noise. They grow in the exact kind of stillness Joseph chose. The exact kind of stillness you chose. The season you have been walking through, the one that has felt too long, too quiet, too uncertain, was not empty. 3 things were being built in you that could not be built any other way. The first was character that holds under pressure. Not the character you perform for others, but the kind that stays when no one is watching, the kind that chooses faithfully in the dark. The second was a settled knowing, not a feeling, but a conviction about who you are and what you are carrying that does not need external validation to stay true. And the third the one that is about to matter most, was a readiness for the right connections to arrive. Joseph's promotion did not come from Joseph engineering it. It came from a single conversation with a man who had the access Joseph needed. That kind of connection does not come to someone still in the noise. It comes to someone who has been prepared in exactly the way you have been prepared. I hear the Father saying, and I want you to receive this as a word for your spirit. I saw it. The moment you chose this, I saw it. Every quiet act of faithfulness you made in the season that felt invisible, I saw every one. And when you made the choice you made today, I did not just acknowledge it, I smiled, because I have been watching you become someone who is finally ready to receive what I have been preparing. Receive that as a word for your spirit, because what I want to show you next, the ancient language of divine joy, the science behind what your surrender just activated, is the part that connects everything we just walked through to everything that is coming. Stay with me. This is where it goes deeper. What happens inside a person during a long waiting season is not what most people think. It is not stagnation. It is not standstill. From the outside, it can look like nothing is moving. From the inside, it can feel exactly the same way. But there is a third perspective, one that neither of those views can access, and it is the most important one. Seeds don't grow in noise. They grow in the exact kind of stillness you chose. And here is what that stillness was doing inside your brain. Neuroscientists who study the mind under extended periods of sustained pressure, followed by a genuine moment of surrender, have discovered something that changes the picture completely. The brain does not go passive in those seasons. It recalibrates. Like an instrument being brought back into tune. Like a compass being reset after years of magnetic interference. The mind that finally releases the grip on what it cannot control does not weaken. It moves into a state of higher coherence. A state that opens things. David understood this without having the science to name it. He was anointed as king before he was ever announced as one chosen, specifically, deliberately, by divine selection, and then sent back to the fields, back to obscurity, back to the sheep. The years between the anointing and the throne are the years most people skip over, the years nobody celebrated, the years where David played music alone, faithfully, in a field with no audience and no applause. His capacity to carry what was coming was being built in the most unglamorous environment you can imagine. And something inside him was being tuned precisely, patiently, for a frequency that the palace would require. That frequency has a name. There is an ancient Hebrew word that the writers of the old texts used to describe the specific quality of God's joy over someone who finally steps into who they were made to be. The word is simcha. Most translations render simcha simply as joy, and that is accurate, but incomplete. Because simcha in Hebrew does not describe a quiet, internal feeling. Simcha is joy that cannot be contained inside. It is an overflowing, an expression that breaks out of the vessel because there is simply too much of it to hold in. The prophet Zephaniah wrote that God rejoices over his people with simcha. What that means is not that God feels something pleasant when he thinks of you. It means something happens, an event occurs. When simcha rises up in God toward a person, things move, things open. Things that were positioned in the unseen begin repositioning toward the visible. There is a second word, sachak, also Hebrew. It means to laugh with delight, to rejoice with abandon. And the ancient texts are very careful about the kind of laughter it describes. The sachak of a father watching his child finally walk in who they were created to be is not the laughter of mockery. It is the laughter of recognition, of arrival, of a father saying quietly, to no one in particular, "There it is. There is who I always knew was in there." That is what happened when you made the choice you made today. Simcha, Sachak, both, over you. If something in your spirit just confirmed that if those ancient words landed somewhere real, type the word Amen in the comments. Let that be your agreement with what was just spoken over your life. Now, here is what connects the spiritual to the physical, and why what just happened to you is significant on every level. Researchers at MIT, Princeton, and Harvard have spent decades studying a specific brainwave state that children naturally operate in before the age of 7. A state associated with accelerated learning, deep intuition, creative flow, and what the scientists describe as heightened synchronicity, moments where the right thing arrives at the right time with no rational explanation for the precision of it. This brainwave state is called gamma, and here is what is extraordinary about gamma. Chosen one. You were born with a stronger gamma frequency than the average person. That is why, as a child, you learned faster than you were supposed to. Why? You felt things more deeply than others around you. Why? You had perceptions and intuitions that people older than you couldn't quite explain. That was not your imagination. That was gamma. But something happened. Beginning around the age of 7, the pressure of modern systems, educational demands, constant performance expectations, the relentless noise of a world that rewards output over presence began suppressing that frequency. The neuroscientists call this the decline effect. And the gap you have carried, the distance between the person you remember being when everything felt possible and the person you became when it all started to feel heavy, that gap is the sound of gamma going quiet. This is part of what was being addressed in your waiting season. And here is why it matters for right now. The decline effect does not reverse through more effort or more noise. It reverses through exactly what you chose: surrender, stillness, coherence. When the mind releases the grip on control, gamma begins to return. And when gamma returns, things that were blocked start moving again. This is also why, in the middle of a long season, sincere prayers can sometimes feel like they are not breaking through. Not because God is not present, but because the receiver has interference. When the brain is locked in survival frequency, which is what chronic pressure does, it becomes harder for the mind to access the state where receptivity is highest, and harder to recognize what is already moving in the unseen. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying precisely this: what specific engineered audio frequencies do to the brain's gamma patterns. His research drew from work at MIT, Princeton, and several other leading universities. And what he found was that the right sound, delivered at the precise frequency, could directly invite the brain back into gamma without years of meditation, without months of practice, and without expensive equipment. Just 7 minutes of listening, through headphones, once a day, starting from the very first session. He called it the Genius Song. I want to be clear with you about what this is. This is not a shortcut around the spiritual work you have already done. It is not a replacement for faith. What it is a tool the way a pair of glasses does not replace your vision, but clarifies what is already there. Your spirit has already shifted. What this does is invite your mind to align with what your spirit has received. The traditional ways to stimulate gamma professionally, clinical biofeedback therapy, run around $300 per session. The equipment to replicate that at home is close to $7,000. Dr. Lake compressed 34 years of research into a 7-minute audio track and originally made the full program available for $49, which, compared to everything else available, is already a fraction of what the same result would cost anywhere else. For those watching this video specifically, the price is $39. That number exists nowhere else, not on Amazon, not on any streaming platform, not through a search on any engine, only through the link in the description and the pinned comment below this video. And that $39 includes 4 additional gifts at no extra cost. The first is Genius Child, an audio track designed to help children develop focus, confidence, and natural learning ability. The second is the original book that the film The Secret drew from, a text on financial clarity and purpose that sells for $20 elsewhere, included free. The third is a guided visualization for 4 areas of life: finances, relationships, health, and purpose. And the fourth is a printed infographic of the 5 most important daily habits for building the life you were created for. All of it is backed by a full money-back guarantee. No conditions on how many times you listen before asking for your money back. If you feel no difference, you pay nothing. The only risk is not trying. One thing I need to say directly: there are websites and products online using the name Genius Song that are not Dr. Lake's work. They are ordinary audio with no brain entrainment technology. The only place to receive the genuine program with the actual frequency engineering, all 4 bonuses, and the full guarantee is through the link in the description and the pinned comment below. That link is the only door to the real thing. If your spirit resonates with this, if something in you recognizes this as a tool for exactly this moment in your journey, the information is waiting for you below. Investigate when you feel led. And whether or not that is for you, what I want you to hold is this: your brain is changing because of what you did. Your spirit moved first. Your mind is following. And God's joy over you is connected to both. If this message has already shifted something for you, gently press like right now, not for me. So this word can find someone else tonight who is still in the middle of the season you are coming out of. Someone who needs to know that what they chose was seen. Your like sends this further. That matters more than you know. Now, remember the seed. Remember that what grows underground is invisible until it is not. What I want to show you next is what the tree actually looks like when it breaks the surface, and what God's joy, that simcha, that sachak, actually begins to open in the life of a chosen one who chose the way you chose. What gets reorganized? What gets rerouted? And who starts arriving? Stay with me. The next part is the one that changes the lens on everything. Take a breath. What I am about to show you is not abstract. It is not wishful thinking. What happens after a chosen one makes the kind of choice you made is something that has been documented across every wisdom tradition, every sacred text, every life that came through a long underground season into visible purpose. There is a pattern, and the pattern has a specific shape. When God's joy lands on a chosen one, relationships reorganize, not all at once, not always comfortably. The people around you will begin to shift, and the shift will feel strange before it feels right. People who have been fixtures in your life, people you assumed would always be where they have been, will begin to drift, and that drifting will ask something difficult of you. It will ask you not to chase them back. The ones releasing are making room, not because they are bad, because they were aligned with a version of you that is no longer accurate. The new version of you, the one who made the choice that made heaven smile, belongs in different company, and that company is already moving toward you. What you will feel during this is grief before it becomes gratitude. There will be a moment where you look around and feel more alone than you expected. That is not a sign that something went wrong. That is the exact moment the reorganization is working. Do not reach back into what is already releasing. Do not force what is already completing itself. And do not misread the quiet as emptiness. That quiet is a preparation. Just when you think you are standing alone, the ones who speak your language will appear. When God's joy lands on a chosen one, purpose clarifies. Not fully, not all at once. But something that has been foggy, something you have been reaching toward without being able to name it clearly, will begin to come into focus. Not like a light switching on, more like dawn, slowly, quietly, the shape of it becoming recognizable. One specific thing will feel more obvious than before. A direction that always felt out of reach will feel closer. A contribution you were made for will feel less like an ambition and more like an inevitability. What you will feel during this is an unusual calm around a specific idea or calling, and your instinct will be to question it, to wonder if you are making it up. Do not question it. That calm is the indicator. When clarity arrives without fanfare, it is more trustworthy than when it arrives with excitement. Do not sprint toward it yet. The clarity is a signal, not a starting gun. When God's joy lands on a chosen one, provision recalibrates. I want to be honest about how I say this, because I will not tell you that every financial pressure dissolves overnight, or that money appears from thin air. What I will tell you is that people who had no reason to think of you will find your name in their thoughts. Opportunities that were moving in a different direction will pause and reorient. Resources that were unavailable for reasons that made complete logical sense will begin to loosen. Not because you engineered it, because alignment has a gravitational field. When a chosen one moves into their true frequency, things that belong to that frequency begin orienting toward them. Provision follows, not as a reward for performance, as a natural result of someone finally standing in the place they were designed for. Every great thing that has ever emerged in this world spent its most important time underground, where no one could see it, where nothing appeared to be happening, where the most critical formation was taking place in complete invisibility. Joseph, in the pit, in the prison, years underground before a single person with influence heard his name. David, anointed in a field, playing music for sheep, shaped in the most unglamorous possible environment, for a throne he would not sit on for years. And across every story of genuine emergence, the pattern holds. The ground is not the enemy of growth. The ground is the source of it. The seed that resists the ground never becomes the tree. The seed that surrenders to the ground becomes something that cannot be stopped. What looks like nothing happening above ground is everything happening below it. You are not behind. You are underground. And that is exactly where trees begin. Now, I want to name something that most people in this kind of season never fully address. And it is the one thing that, if left unnamed, will quietly work against everything that is being built. There is a pattern in the chosen one, and I say this with full compassion because I understand where it comes from. A pattern of managing what is being built, of needing to keep a hand on what God is asking you to hand over, of staying close to the thing that, the moment you release it, becomes what God was waiting for. This pattern does not come from weakness. It comes from a history of being surprised by loss. When things have fallen apart before, the instinct says, if I stay close, if I keep watching, if I manage this carefully enough, it will not fall again. And so, the grip stays, even when the spirit knows better. Underneath that grip is a belief that most chosen ones have never said out loud. The belief is this: if I let go, it will fall apart. And if it falls apart, it was never real. That is not lack of faith. That is the scar of previous disappointment. And it is one of the most human things in the world. And then there is a second layer, one that is harder to admit. It goes like this. What if the surrender actually works? What if what God has been preparing actually arrives? What if I receive the breakthrough, step into the visibility, and I do not know what to do with it? What if I am finally, fully seen, and what they see turns out to be insufficient? That fear, has a name, and I want you to know that fear is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the awareness of someone who understands the weight of what they are being entrusted with. Those who crash at the height often do so because they had no fear, no awareness of what they were carrying. Your fear of your own breakthrough is not evidence that you are not ready. It is evidence that you understand what readiness costs, and what you need is not more courage. What you need is permission. So here it is. You are allowed to release what you have been managing. You are allowed to stop holding what God is asking you to hand over. You are allowed to outgrow the people and places and versions of yourself that belong to who you were before. You are allowed to receive what you did not manufacture, what you did not engineer, what arrived because of alignment rather than effort. You are allowed to be surprised by grace, to have something arrive that is better than what you planned for yourself. You are allowed to be seen and found to be sufficient, and to carry that without collapsing. And you do not owe anyone an explanation or an apology for becoming who you were always meant to be. Because naming something without giving you something to work with would be incomplete, I want to give you what I call the stillness protocol. Not a practice that requires a different environment or a rearranged schedule. Something you can apply right where you are and every day that follows. The first part is the morning signal. Before you consume anything, before the first piece of noise enters, you take 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, you do one thing. You acknowledge, quietly and without performance, that what is being built in you is not yours to manage. You hand it back every morning, not as a ritual that becomes empty, but as a genuine, brief act of surrender that resets the grip before the day has a chance to tighten it again. The second part is the release audit. Once a week, not daily because that becomes its own kind of burden, you ask yourself one question. What have I been managing this week that is not mine to carry? One honest answer. One thing. And in your mind, you set it down. You do not explain why it is not yours. You simply place it down, the way you would put down a bag that was never addressed to you. The third part is the confirmation practice. When clarity arrives, when that directional signal we talked about surfaces, you mark it. Not publicly, privately. You receive it as something given to you, not something you generated. And you do not reach ahead of it. You let it lead. You follow it at the pace it sets. Those 3 practices, applied consistently, keep the frequency of what just happened in you from being buried again by the noise of ordinary days. And before we go where this message is going next, I want to tell you something. Before this message ends, I am going to speak a declaration over your life, over who you are, and over what has been opened by what you did today. I believe it will stay with you long after you leave this space. So, stay with me. What I am about to declare over you is the reason this message found you. Do not leave before it is spoken. But first, there is one more thing I need to show you. The largest truth of all. The one that makes everything we have walked through snap into place. The one that answers the question underneath every other question. Not just, what did you do? But who was it that God saw doing it? That is where we are going next. Here is the answer. God did not smile because you did something impressive. He did not smile because you finally got it right after a string of getting it wrong. He did not smile because the act itself was grand enough to earn his attention. He smiled because you finally agreed. That is the deepest truth. That is what every layer of this message was pointing toward, from different angles, in different languages, through ancient text, and through science, and through the signs you recognized in your own life. All of it was pointing here. God's joy over you was not a response to your performance. It was a response to your agreement. The moment you stopped arguing with who He has always said you are, the moment you stopped negotiating with your own calling, the moment you chose, even slightly, even imperfectly, to act like the person he has always seen when he looks at you, something moved in eternity. Not because you earned it, because you agreed. And here is what agreement means. It means the version of you that has been underground is not a different person from the version of you that is now emerging. It is the same person. The waiting season did not build a new you. It revealed the original one. The one that was always there, underneath the noise, underneath the pressure, underneath every story that told you that who you sense yourself to be on your best days is an exaggeration. It is not an exaggeration. It is the accurate reading. The waiting season was not adding to you. It was stripping away everything that had been covering you. You went in unsure, and you are coming out knowing. You went in holding on, and you are coming out releasing. You went in waiting for permission from the outside, and you are coming out understanding that you were always authorized. You went in asking whether you were enough, and you are coming out as the answer. I hear the Father saying, and I want you to receive this into the part of you that has been the most resistant to believing it. I saw you choose this. I watched the exact moment when everything in you wanted to make the easier decision, and you made the harder one. And I want you to know that did not surprise me. I always knew you would, because I put that in you before you were born. What moved me, what made heaven respond with Simcha and Sakak over your life, was not that you finally did what I always knew you could do. What moved me was watching you believe it too, for the first time. In that quiet, unwitnessed, ordinary moment, you believed it. And that, chosen one, is the moment I have been preparing since long before you understood what you were being prepared for. Receive that into the places that still argue. Now, I want to name who you are, not who you are becoming, who you already are. Because the identity we have been walking toward in this message is not a future destination. It is what God saw when He smiled. It is the original, and it deserves to be spoken clearly, so it can settle into you at a level that understanding alone cannot reach. You are a spiritual warrior. That does not mean you never feel fear. It means you have not let fear make the final decision. You have been under sustained pressure for a long time, and you did not collapse. That is not a small thing. That is the definition of someone who holds ground when the design of the season was specifically to bring them down. You held it. You are a cycle breaker. Something ends with you. A pattern, a wound, a way of moving through the world that was handed to you by people who received it from the people before them. It stops here. What you chose today is part of that stopping. You are not passing the weight forward. You are setting it down. That is one of the most significant things a human being can do for everyone who comes after them. And you are doing it. You are a seer. You perceive what others miss. You have likely spent your whole life feeling like you sense too much, feel things too deeply, notice things you cannot always explain to the people around you. That sensitivity is not a flaw to manage. It is an assignment to carry. The things you notice that others walk past, they matter. They are the specific perception of someone designed to illuminate what those around them cannot see. You are a voice, not necessarily a loud one, not necessarily a public one, but there are things you carry, truths, a specific way of putting language to what people feel but cannot articulate, that this world genuinely needs. There are rooms that will shift because of what you say in them. There are people who will be turned around by a single conversation with you. You have been quiet for a season because it was not yet time. That silence was a filling. What comes out of you now will carry the weight of everything you lived through. And you are a peacemaker. Your presence does something in a space that other people cannot manufacture by trying. Tension settles when you are there. Confusion finds direction. People feel held without you having to do anything visible for them. That is not a personality trait. That is a calming force that the world is desperate for, and you carry it. That is who you are. That is who you have always been. That is who God saw when he smiled. That is who you are stepping into now. Here is what you do with who you are. I want to give you what I call the sacred yes framework. Not a method for making faster decisions, a method for making aligned ones, decisions that come from the person we just named, not from fear or noise or the approval of others. Every significant choice you face from this point forward, run it through 3 filters. The first filter: does this require me to go back to who I was before? If what is being asked of you can only be said yes to by the person who held the grip, who needed outside permission, who managed what was not theirs to manage, then that is not your yes. That belongs to a version of you that is already behind you. The second filter: does this require me to take back control of something I already handed over? If saying yes means reopening what you just closed, the timing is wrong, or the thing itself is wrong. Either way, that is not your door right now. The third filter: does this produce simka? That quiet, uncontainable sense of rightness, even a whisper of it, when you consider this direction, or does it produce noise? Noise is not peace. Noise is the sound of something that belongs to someone else's season. When simka arrives, even softly, that is the signal. Trust it. Run every major decision through those 3 filters, not as a rigid system, as a conversation with what you already know. I want to tell you about someone. 11 months ago, she was in the middle of something that could have ended the work she had spent 7 years building. A public accusation, the kind that spreads quickly and corrects slowly. Everyone around her said, respond, defend yourself, get ahead of it before it defines you. Every instinct she had, the old instinct, the one that had kept her safe by managing everything carefully, said the same thing. She went silent instead. Not the silence of someone without words, the silence of someone who has chosen to let what is underground stay there until it is ready to surface. She told the few people close to her, I am practicing stillness. 40 days, no public statements, no explanations. She worked quietly, faithfully, in exactly the place she found herself, doing the work in front of her without a single word of defense. On day 41, the person who had made the accusation withdrew it publicly, without being asked. And in the same week, 3 separate organizations reached out with partnership offers larger than anything she had accessed in the previous 7 years. She did not speak her way into favor. She surrendered her way into it. Now I want to do something with you. Right here, right where you are. You do not need to move. You do not need to change your position. Just bring your attention inward for a moment. In your spirit, I want you to stand up. Not your body. Your body can stay exactly where it is. But somewhere in the center of you, in the part of you that heard these words and recognized something true in them, I want you to rise. Now see, in your mind, a single door. It is not sealed. It is not locked by anything that requires a key. It is simply open, and above it, written in the language of your calling, in the language that only you and God fully understand, is one word: already. Not soon, not maybe, not when you have earned the right. Already. What is behind that door is not a mystery you have to solve. It is what God has been preparing in the time you spent underground. The connections, the clarity, the provision, the version of you that the people designed to be in your life have been waiting to meet. It is already there. The door is already open. You do not have to knock. You do not have to present your case or prove your readiness. You simply walk through as someone who belongs on the other side. Let that settle in you for a moment. And if something just shifted, if something in your spirit received what your mind is still catching up to, Type the words I receive in the comments right now. Not as a hope, as a declaration. Let those 2 words be the sound of you walking through the door. Take 1 breath. What we just walked through together was not casual. You were not a passive listener in this message. Something in you engaged with what was being said, and something in the unseen actively responded to that engagement. And before we seal this, before we close what was opened and release what needs to go and declare what needs to be declared, I want to take a moment to acknowledge what it cost you to be here. Not just today, the whole season that carried you here. We are grateful, not in a performed way, in the truest, quietest sense of the word. Grateful to the God who does not abandon the people he has called, who does not miscalculate a timeline, who does not smile over something unless he means it. We are grateful for the wilderness seasons, for the silence that felt like absence and was actually a form of presence we could not recognize from inside it, for the delay that looked like failure and was actually a formation we could not see from where we were standing, for the waiting that felt like punishment and was actually a preparation so precise that only someone who knew the exact weight of what was coming would have designed it that way. We do not thank you for comfortable seasons. We thank you for the kind of love that refuses to let a chosen one stay in a version of themselves that is too small for what they were made to carry. And we acknowledge what you already know. You see every weight that has been carried in the invisible. Every night when the faith was thin and the silence felt complete. Every morning when moving forward was an act of will rather than an act of feeling. Every moment of choosing trust, when the evidence pointed the other direction, you saw all of it, not from a distance. The way a father watches a child navigating something difficult, not stepping in to remove the difficulty, but present for every step of it. You saw the seed enter the ground. You knew what it would become before the soil closed over it, and you waited with us for the surface to show what was already happening below. We receive that, not as a comforting idea, as a fact. Now we release. And we do this together, because releasing alone is harder than releasing in the company of others who are releasing with you. We release the old story about who we are, the one written by pain, by seasons that did not turn out the way they were supposed to, by the voices that had access to us before we had the strength to discern them. That story was never our identity. We release it now. We release the ceiling that was placed over our expectation by the accumulated weight of disappointments we did not deserve. The ceiling that quietly said, "Do not hope too clearly, because hoping and being wrong again is worse than not hoping at all." That ceiling is not real. It was never structural. We release it. We release the need to manage what God is asking us to receive, the grip on what is not ours to hold anymore, the habit of reaching back in to check on what we already handed over. We set it down. We leave it where we placed it, and we do not go back. We release the comparison, every timeline that is not ours, every benchmark set by someone whose story is not our story, whose preparation was not our preparation, whose calling was never our calling to carry. We are not running the same race. We release the measuring. We release the guilt of outgrowing, the places that feel too small now, the conversations that used to feel like home and no longer fit the same way. The version of ourselves that slipped neatly into spaces we have since expanded past. Outgrowing is not betrayal. It is what growth looks like from the inside. We release the guilt of it. We release the fear of the version of ourselves that is emerging, the one that is more visible, more committed, more aligned than we have been before. We release the fear that we will not be adequate for what is coming. We are adequate. We were made adequate for exactly this. We release the word "not yet" wherever it was spoken over us, by voices that did not have the authority to put a limit on what God has already designated for our lives. Now we activate. We call forth the spiritual warrior, the one who held ground when the pressure was specifically designed to bring them down. You are not holding ground anymore. You are advancing. We call forth the cycle breaker, the one in whom a pattern that has traveled too long finally finds its end. What was handed to you will not be handed forward. It stops here, with someone strong enough to carry it to its completion and wise enough to set it down. We call forth the seer, the one who sees what others walk past and feels what others cannot name. Your perception is not a sensitivity to apologize for. It is a gift being deployed. See clearly now. We call forth the voice, the one who has been filled in the silence and is ready to speak into the rooms that have been waiting for them. The filling is complete. What comes out of you now carries the weight of everything you lived through. Speak from that. We call forth the peacemaker, the one whose presence changes the atmosphere of a space without a single visible effort. Walk into the spaces you were designed for. You carry something this world needs and cannot manufacture on its own. We do not beg for this. We call it forth, into the open, into the now, because it belongs here. And we cover what is rising. We cover the new connections arriving, that they are not turned away by fear or mistimed by impatience, that they find their place at the moment they are designed for. We cover the clarity that is forming, that it is not drowned by noise returning, that it stays directional even when the circumstances around it are still uncertain. We cover what is being built from premature exposure. What is growing underground remains protected until it is strong enough to carry what comes with being seen, not hidden forever. Covered until the time is right. And we cover the mind and spirit of every chosen one hearing this, that every word spoken today lands somewhere deeper than argument can reach, deeper than doubt can follow. Now we declare, together, not in desperation, not as a petition, as people who have agreed with what God has always known about them and are choosing to speak it out loud. I am not behind, I am in the ground, and the ground is doing what ground does. I am not invisible, I am underground, and heaven has not looked away from me for a single moment of this season. I am not forgotten, I have been prepared, and preparation and abandonment cannot exist in the same space at the same time. I am not who the longest and hardest season suggested I might be. I am who God saw when He smiled. I am ready, not because I feel ready in every part of me, because I chose today what chosen ones choose, and what they choose, heaven honors. And I hear the Father saying, one final time, I ask you to receive this into the places that have held out the longest. You are mine. I am pleased with you, not with your output, with you. What I started in you, I have not stepped back from. What I smiled about today is not the peak of what I am doing in your life. It is the first shoot breaking through the surface. And what happens when a tree breaks the surface is that the sun finds it. The sun has been waiting for this. Do not say amen yet. I want you to sit in what was just spoken over you, not as a thought to analyze or evaluate or decide whether you fully believe, as a truth to receive. Let it move from your mind into the rest of you, into the places that still hold back, into the places that needed someone to say it directly, into the places that have been waiting a long time for exactly this word. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are in this same place, different cities, different languages, different lengths of waiting, but the same shift, the same stillness they chose, the same underground growth beginning to break through the same surface. You are not moving through this alone. You are part of something happening on a scale larger than one person's story. And when chosen ones find the word that was meant for their season at the right moment, something in the larger network of what God is building gets stronger. You are one of those connections tonight. It is done. It is sealed. We receive what was spoken, and so it is. Amen. If what was declared over your life in this message landed somewhere real, gently press like one more time. Not for the number, for the chosen one who is watching this tonight and has not made their choice yet. The one standing at the door wondering if it is for them. Your like sends this to them. That is not a small thing. That is you functioning as exactly what you were named earlier. Someone who carries light into spaces that need it. If this is the kind of word your spirit needs as you move into what comes next, for the seasons ahead, for the new thresholds that each new level of calling brings, stay connected. Not to a channel, to the word that continues to be prepared for where you are going. What comes next is already being written for you. And if someone came to your mind during this message, not as a passing thought, but as a specific name, a specific face, someone who has gone unusually quiet recently, someone who has been pulling back from everything without being able to explain why to anyone around them, someone who is deep in the underground season and beginning to wonder if anything is actually working, share this with them, not as a recommendation, as a message you are personally sending. Tell them, this is for you. The silence you chose was not failure. The waiting was not a sign that you were missed or forgotten. God saw what you did, and you need to understand what that means for everything that comes next. What you planted in your quiet moment is in the ground, chosen one. The ground knows what to do. And today, heaven looks down and sees the first shoot breaking through the surface.